I just wanted to come back to, Mark, was you mentioned around the use of data to deliver more insights to the client. What sort of things have you seen firms doing that's been really well received by the client and starting to differentiate perhaps the way that they deliver the services?
When you can solve one of the problems that the client has through your use of technology that they couldn't solve is a big winner. So I've seen a couple of instances where the firm was having some troubles getting their consolidation put together. They had 80 different subsidiaries with different accounting packages, and they were really having a hard time getting all the reconciliations done. And through some ingestion and standardization and some quick analyses, we could show them how to solve the whole reconciliation consolidation process. Believe me, that got a lot of good press. But again, it's taking a look at the data in a different way because of our broad business experiences that actually provide some business insight, because you're looking at it in a little bit different lens, I guess, than the people that are really day-to-day heads down in the organization. Looking at data just in a good visualization way. It could be at a macro level. It doesn't have to be necessarily that granular down into the operational level, but at a macro level, and if you can layer in some benchmarking, is really valuable too. So they want to know, how are they doing compared to others? Are they on track? Are they not on track?
Well, that's always the thing, isn't it? When you're an organization, and you're reporting your numbers, you might, for example, have shown that your revenue's gone up 10% versus last year, or that your margin's up 5%. You can do that internal comparison, but you don't know whether 10% is really good for your entire industry niche that you're in, or you don't know whether that margin is actually already way behind what it should be for a company of your size or your particular geographical region. I think that's the key things that are going to start to then provide that perspective. Say, okay, you can crunch your numbers, but we're giving you that objective analysis of how you compare to the businesses that we've got access to this kind of data for.
Did you sell 10% more stuff, or did you have a 10% price increase, or what was the combination? And how does that compare to other businesses? Did they pass along a price increase and they sold more things, or did they actually sell less things at a higher margin and they were more profitable by selling less? Sometimes less is more.
But I think one of the key things that you articulated there in terms of adding value to the business, Mark, is truly understanding what the client's challenges are at the moment. So your example of being able to perform the consolidation process and the challenge of aggregating data, I think that there's a number of things that play into that data and that technology space, but I also always recommend to firms, don't underestimate the value of even quite functional audit activities. If you can think in advance of how, when I'm performing this test, could I collect something as a byproduct of that work or something else that actually would be valuable to the client? Now, you can only do that if you spend the time up front to sit with the client and understand the areas that might be a challenge for them. So I've got a specific example that's nothing to do with technology or data, where in my previous experience, I sat with one of my clients, and one of the things that was really important for them was that they were going to be having a review by the tax authorities of some of their control processes around how they captured and reported information. And this was something we were discussing at the planning phase, very early stage. And I said, well, actually, as part of the audit process, we need to capture a lot of documentation around the walkthrough of your cycles of how your controls are in operation. This is in the UK, so not subject to SOX or anything like that, Mark. And I said, well, actually, as part of our work, we could probably do some more detailed work in that area as we're working around the business. We could do it across different business units rather than just doing it across the main ones. We could do some benchmarking of the different business units to identify perhaps some control best in class, but also some control improvement areas. That was a tangible output that the client was able to get by simply us incrementing the scope of our work on the control stuff by a very small amount. We just increased the level of documentation we needed to do. We opened up the way that we could share some of that work effectively, and we got creative in terms of how we did that. But to me, the important thing was we sat with the client and we understood exactly what they were interested in. And then we thought about, well, does that fit in the scope of the audit? Is that something extra that we would need to do? Is that something that actually we can be flexible in our audit approach and the way we respond to risk to actually make sure that we incorporate value into the work that we're already going to be doing?
That's interesting. I had an example where, one of the questions I used to ask when I would go interview the people in the accounting department or the finance department was, what are you struggling with? What's bothering you today, or what are you really struggling with? And sometimes it's, they couldn't get the finance group to talk to the operational group for certain kinds of reports or whatever it was, for whatever reason. So I thought, well, maybe as part of the audit, we can start exploring getting some different reports from the operational group, because we would have to anyway to look for in the manufacturing process. And we were actually able to start getting them access to more information than they had before, because we asked for it as auditors first. And once we kind of went down that road and got that access for them, then we just turned it around. Well, can you provide that to the accounting department too? So, sometimes it's just a conversation that you have, in your day-to-day understanding the business and what their pain points are, that adds a little bit of intrinsic value to that. But let me tell you that when you do that, they're really more willing to open up to you and help you out and get you through some of the areas then. So.